Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. This is the September 8th, 2020 Civic Design Review meeting of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. For your information, this meeting is being recorded. By participating in the meeting, you are giving your consent to be recorded. A link to the recording will be posted on the Philadelphia City Commission website. The agenda and meeting materials can also be found on the website. The website can be found by going to phila.gov/zoning-planning-development/city-planning-commission-plan-reviews/get a civic design review. Commissioners, I'm going to call on you one at a time. Please introduce yourself and acknowledge that you can see and hear others. Nancy Rogo Trainer.
Hi, I'm Nancy Trainer. I can see and hear you.
Dan Garofalo.
Hi, I'm Dan. I can see and hear. Thanks.
Michael Johns.
Michael Johns here. I can see and hear everyone.
Leo Adamanda.
Leo Adamando here. I can see and hear.
Ashley DeCaro.
I'm here and can see and hear everybody.
David Stockwiller.
I'm here and can see and hear everyone.
Thank you. Members of the public, you will have the opportunity to comment on agenda items during the meeting. Questions and comments will be heard during the public comment period, which will be opened and closed by the Civic Design Review Committee chairperson. All offering comment are asked to state their full name for the record. If you are joining by phone, you may use the raise hand feature by dialing *9 during the public comment period. Staff will unmute phone user's item. You may also comment by voice through the Zoom application. When the committee chairperson indicates the public comment period is open, we will take comments by voice. Please use the raise hand function in the Zoom application and wait to be unmuted by the meeting host. In the interest of time, we are asking all participants to limit themselves to 3 minutes when speaking. Please note, Planning Commission staff can also receive comments by email. If you'd like to submit an email, please send them to cdr@phila.gov. For presenters of Civic Design Review cases, we remind everybody that we have a lengthy agenda. We ask all development teams to limit their presentations to the time you have been allocated. Planning Commission staff may mute you at the end of your time. In the interest of all, given the length of our agendas in the virtual environment, we ask applicants to have presentations conducted by your design professionals associated with the project. We do not need a summary, as staff will preside that. The Civic Design Review will be voting by roll call on whether or not a project needs to return, and by consensus to accept Civic Design Review Committee comments. For roll call votes, I will ask commissioners for their vote verbally individually at the end of each agenda item. One last piece of information. Civic Design Review dates have been set for the remainder of the year, shown on the screen here. Please see the dates shown there, which can also be found at the website for Get a Civic Design Review. Our chairperson will now call the meeting to order and announce the quorum. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Welcome to everyone and to the September 8th, 2020 meeting. We do have a quorum, and we want to remind everyone that Civic Design Review is a subcommittee of the City Planning Commission. We're charged with assessing the public realm of proposed building projects in Philadelphia. The Department of Licenses and Inspections has informed the City Planning Commission of 6 cases that will be heard at this meeting, 2 of which are returning for their second review, and 4 of which are being heard for the first time today. Cases may be heard more than one time, up to twice. The committee may ask an applicant to return if, after our discussion, significant issues are left unresolved. Design review is an advisory process. However, we strongly encourage applicants to accept the results of the review and to incorporate our findings into the design. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. To avoid unintentional background noise, like my neighbor's construction, please remember to mute your microphone when you are not speaking and to unmute them when you are speaking. And I apologize in advance for any background noise while I'm speaking. We are on to our last project of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are on to 1 Red Lion Road. And I believe we have someone from the Somerton Civic Association who can introduce himself.
Hello, my name is Chris Bordelon. I'm president of the Somerton Civic Association.
Well, welcome. Thank you. And with that, we can start the presentation. Do we have the design team on board and ready?
Yeah, hi, sorry, this is Christos Danoulis from Bowler Engineering. Can I have the next slide, please? Next slide. So this proposal is for a 1 million square foot UPS packaging and sortation and distribution facility, along with 2 accessory buildings to support that distribution use. Just to get everybody oriented, the first slide that we see here is an aerial of the existing conditions of the plan. So our property is outlined in red. And then just to give everybody an idea of where we're at here, it's Red Lion Road is on the south side of the property running from east to west. To the left, we have sort of that brown area, which is an area that's in Lower Moreland Township. It's currently under construction. And to the left of that, running north and south, is Pine Road. And then to the east of our property is Sandmeyer Lane, which is a cul-de-sac, extends north to south and sort of turns around and hits that little nub that comes off the back end of our property there at the cul-de-sac. So just to give everybody an idea of where we're located. Can I have the next slide, please? This is just a zoning map of the area. Again, we are outlined in red. We are zoned industrial. You can see the other pink, purple industrial uses surrounding the property. We do have some residential immediately on the south side across the street of Red Lion. There's also a small piece at the northwest corner as well. And then along the southwest corner, again, some residential uses as well as some apartment buildings. Next slide, please. This is just another existing conditions plan. Former Island Green Golf Course. You can see the sort of grayish areas on here are the driveways, parking lots, and former cart paths running through the property. The blue areas are drainage ponds that were associated with the runoff for the golf course. Next slide, please. So here's our proposed development. We'll sort of work our way around and then into the site. So starting on the southwest or the bottom left corner, you can see that there's a small driveway that the adjacent property within Lower Moreland Township has an easement to essentially bring their traffic out onto Red Lion Road. Continuing down Red Lion Road, there's a proposed full movement signal that aligns with the existing signal there at Country Club Drive. Continuing further down Red Lion Road is Global Road. There's another existing signal there. Again, that's a proposed full movement access into the site as well. As we get to the east side of the site, this is an exit only movement here for packaged vehicles that goes on to Sandmeyer Lane. And then working our way around to the north side, Sandmeyer extends all the way down. You can see that cul-de-sac, and that access point there is just for tractor trailer traffic to enter the site. So all tractor trailer traffic enters and exits the site through that northern connection. So in the middle of the site here, this larger brown box that you see is the proposed warehouse facility. There's also really the loading docks for the facility are along the north, the east, and the south side of the building. Just to the north of the building, you can see a couple other brown boxes. Starting from left to right is the employee entrance. In between the employee entrance, there is a fueling facility. And just to the right of that, there's a vehicle wash facility. And then in the upper right parking area that you see there, it's not parking, it's truck storage. Approximately 450 spaces associated with truck storage. And then on the northwest portion is where the employee parking is. And there's approximately 950 parking spaces in there. So access to the site, like I said, all trucks enter and exit the site through the northern access onto Sandmeyer. exit only onto Sandmeyer on the east side for package vehicles. And then the 2 signalized access points along Red Lion Road are both for passenger vehicles for the employees, as well as the delivery vehicles. The blue areas that you see on the plan here are the stormwater management facilities. Given the prior environmental conditions on site, all of these facilities are proposed to be lined with an impermeable liner. They're essentially functioning as very large rain gardens. All of that runoff then discharges out into Red Lion Road into the existing system, and then ultimately discharges to Pennypack. Along the west and southern property line, so along the west property line with Lower Moreland Township, you can see some trees through there. There's a large landscape berm that buffers the property on that side, as well as trees that are proposed along Red Lion Road, where there'll also be a landscape berm to help mitigate the visual impacts of the property. There's also in the northwest corner a sound wall that is proposed adjacent to those other residential uses at the northwest corner. The next couple slides that we have are some perspective views. So if you see the red circles on this plan, along with the arrows, that's essentially the view that these perspectives are taking. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So this is the first view from that northwest corner looking into the site. You see that pond, it's the blue area right there, and then there's the sound wall. And just beyond that, you can start to see the top of the proposed warehouse building. Next slide, please. This is again looking from the western property line up over top of the berm. So again, we have this large berm, some landscaping proposed at the top, and you can start to see the top of the warehouse facility. Next slide, please. This would be coming from the Lower Moreland residential development that's under construction. So coming through that easement area. In the background, you can see sort of the landscaped berm area, as well as that the building in the background. Next slide, please. This would be traveling eastbound on Red Lion Road. Again, you can see the berms along the frontage of the property with the building in the background. Next slide, please. And this would be traveling westbound on Red Lion Road. Again, the landscape berm and then the building you can start to see in the background. Next slide. So this exhibit here is just showing the truck movements, the tractor trailer movements really. Again, access is from Sandmeyer only. So you can see once they get into the site, they can circulate around the site in the interior, but all inbound and outbound movements would be through Sandmeyer at that northern access. Next slide, please. Again, here's package delivery vehicles. They have the ability to use both signalized access points along Red Lion Road. They then circulate through the site through those arrows that you see here. And again, this entire site, once you're inside the site, really around the warehouse building with the parking that's immediately, or the trailer storage that's immediately adjacent to it, as well as that northeast storage field are all gated, right? So the only access, so there's gated access essentially at all those other points that you can see entering into sort of that island, if you will. Next slide, please. And again, here's the passenger movement diagram. So again, passenger movement access off of Red Lion Road. They would then go to through that perimeter ring road to the parking field at the northwest corner. And then again, they wouldn't have to go through a gated access until they get out of their car, go into that employee entrance that's just at that northwest corner of the building, and then they would enter into the facility. Next slide. So this is our traffic slide. So I'll turn this over to Guy.
Hi, good afternoon. Sorry, I'm getting some feedback here. Can you hear me okay?
Now we can.
Okay. Yeah, good evening. My name is Guy DiMartino with Traffic Planning and Design. The slide that is being presented identifies the site overlaid on an aerial. You'll note there are 10 intersections that are highlighted with yellow circles. Those are intersections that have been evaluated, and we are planning on implementing improvements based on coordination with the Streets Department and with PennDOT, as well as Lower Moreland Township. There's one intersection, one of the 10 intersections, the westernmost intersection with Pine Road is situated in Lower Moreland Township, so we are coordinating with them. The other 9 yellow dots intersections are intersections that fall within the city limits, and we have been working with the Streets Department to satisfy their requirements from a traffic perspective, implementing signal improvements at various intersections, ADA improvements. Some other notable improvements, which I will highlight, are along the Red Lion Road frontage. Shown in the blue line is an 8-foot path that we are going to be implementing along our site frontage. We're also providing sidewalk in the area of our frontage along Sandmeyer Lane, both I'll call in the north-south section as well as the cul-de-sac section to the north of the site. An additional improvement that we will be implementing is traffic calming along Sandmeyer Lane by adding a center median along the stretch indicated in the orange line, and also rumble strips. And again, that has been coordinated with the Streets Department and will continue to do so as we advance through that process with them. So that's the extent of the traffic, and now I will turn it over to Noor.
Hi, my name is Greg Zeri. I'm with Noor Architects. I represent the architectural team. If we can go to the next slide, please. These images represent what the building will look like. The building is 1,004,400 square feet. It is a precast structure where we have, in this view, a 2-story glass entrance for the office areas. Next slide, please. So slightly further away view, that same corner, it shows the building more inclusive of the entire building. Next slide, please. This is the other corner facing Red Lion Road. Again, we have a glass feature at the corner where we have a large amount of office space, and then the rest of the building is primarily receiving doors around the perimeter. Next slide, please. And an aerial view showing the entire building surrounded by loading areas. Next slide, please.
That's it.
Okay.
Okay.
Go back.
Well, that if folks are done, that leaves it to the staff comments.
Good afternoon, or good evening, committee. This project triggers case 2. The proposal is greater than 50,000 square feet of new gross floor area adjacent to residential zoning districts. The site area is just under 140 acres, or over 6 million square feet, and it is zoned medium industrial. This is a by right project, and it does not trigger any refusals. The present use, it's as described by the development team, is a vacant former golf course, and before that, it was a former rail car production site. The proposed use is a over 1 million square foot UPS package sortation and distribution facility and accessory structures, such as the 3,300 square foot employee entrance and customer service counter, over 7,000 square foot truck wash, and as mentioned, a CNG fueling facility. The project will provide 956 employee and customer parking spaces and 879 trailer and storage and loading spaces. Somerton Civic Association was designated as coordinating RCO for this project. However, the 45-day period expired without a meeting being held between the applicant and RCO to discuss the project. While the meeting was not held, the RCO submitted a letter which was received by the committee. Next slide. We will be reviewing this project for site, parking, and sustainable design. Next slide. For complete streets, staff will comment on concerns it has regarding the project's transit, bicycle, and pedestrian components. Next slide. This development will provide approximately 900 jobs, and based on the mode share for the city of Philadelphia, we expect a significant number of transit trips generated by this project. While staff understands that the project is located in an auto-oriented section of the city, the project would greatly improve multimodal access by making a few design modifications. SEPTA periodically reassesses bus route frequency based on projected and actual changes in ridership, and transit connections to a company that provides 900 jobs could justify an increase in bus frequency. Potential ways to accomplish this is a bus shelter could be installed, or staff recommends that a bus shelter is installed at the bus stop at Country Club Drive and Red Line Road, which is highlighted in blue at the bottom of the screen, or to reduce the distance between the bus stop and employee and customer entrances, or coordinate it with SEPTA to create an internal bus loop to bring transit users to the employee and customer entrance. There are no internal connections from the bike lane on Red Line Road to bicycle parking within the site. PCPC staff recommends replacing the sidewalk along the vehicular drive with a separated shared use path for pedestrians and bicyclists. This could provide a double benefit of reducing conflicts between bicycles and vehicles and creating an amenity for employees to enjoy physical activity on their break. This pathway should be 12 feet wide. Next slide. Going beyond minimum bicycle parking requirements would encourage employees and customers to arrive by bicycle. In addition to existing bicycle parking, more bicycle parking should be provided for customers in the form of U-racks outside the entrance of the commercial space. Extending the canopy from the employee and visitor entrance building would provide cover for bicycle parking. Next slide. Proposed curb cuts for employee and customers access are 48 and 43 feet wide. Curb cut lengths should be reduced or a median installed to maintain safe crossing distances for pedestrians traveling on the sidewalk. Signage should be installed to let drivers know to slow down for pedestrians and bicycles. Next slide. Red Line Road between Sandmeyer Lane and the city boundary is on the City of Philadelphia's high injury network. This site will add new heavy vehicle traffic to this roadway, which will increase the danger posed to vulnerable roadway users like people walking or riding bikes. Staff recommends that the developer team consider incorporating a raised bikeway into the sidewalk improvement design along Red Line Road, extending the curb into the existing parking lane. Additionally, staff appreciates increasing the walking zone along Red Line Road from the existing 0 to 5 feet to 10 feet. However, the development team should meet minimum furnishing zone requirements of 4 feet along Red Line Road and explore opportunities to install furnishings and maintain mature trees where feasible. Next slide. This was largely addressed by the development team in the response to PCPC comments about managing queuing of trucks within the site, just to make sure that they provide sufficient internal space for truck queuing, so tractor trailers or package trucks do not queue into Sandmeyer Lane. Next slide. For site design, PCP staff notes that there is an opportunity to go beyond minimum required tree coverage within the 138-acre site. Where possible, please retain some of the existing tree canopy. A denser tree line buffer would also provide greater tree canopy and more effectively mitigate sound and visual impacts from site operations. Staff appreciates that the development team noted that the roofing system and structure will be prepared for potential future solar array installation. Staff encourages the development team to make that commitment during the permitting phase of the project and explore other opportunities to install renewable energy and storage within the large site. Next slide. Additional elements to manage and, staff appreciates efforts by the development team to buffer this large operation from surrounding residential neighborhoods with berms, trees, and a sound wall. Additional elements to manage and reduce noise from 24-hour operations, such as water fountains and waterfall features, is a plan to propose sound wall. Several traffic impact related concerns were expressed to the Planning Commission by the Lower Moreland Township Board of Commissioners. Staff encourages that the applicant, including the operator UPS, meet with Lower Moreland and PennDOT to address those concerns. Next slide. For parking design, PCB staff commends the development team for placing parking at the rear of the site, buffered from adjacent properties by a sound wall and the tree line. However, staff encourages that the development team create landscape buffered walkways throughout the through the employee and visitor parking lot to connect to the employee entrance and retail building. Similarly, landscape buffered walkways through the truck parking lot should be considered. Next slide. The Planning Commission staff recommends the development team on meeting some of the sustainability metrics and would encourage them to meet more within the sustainable sites and energy and atmosphere metrics. BCBC staff encourages a project of this scale and visibility to pursue third-party certification. And that concludes staff comments.
Great, thank you very much. What I'd like to do is start with the RCO member and then move on to public comments. So if we could start with Mr. Bordelon, whose name I may have just mangled, that would be a good start.
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Okay, well, my name is Chris Bordelon, and I volunteer as president of Somerton Civic Association. It's the only RCO with registered boundaries that include the properties that are involved here. I want to refer the panel to the letter that we sent you, which provides an explanation and documentation concerning our interactions with the developers of this project up to this point in time. That letter sets out our statement about this project, but I'll comment a little for the benefit of both the panel and for any neighbors who might be listening who might not have read the letter. Our civics board believes that many people would attend an in-person civic meeting if one were held about this project, because we believe that this project is likely to have tremendous consequences for Somerton and other neighborhoods nearby. We can't hold an in-person civic meeting due to the coronavirus. So we devised a procedure that would be a fair substitute for an in-person Somerton civic meeting. At our in-person meetings, people who attend expect a meaningful opportunity to participate, to ask questions about the project, and to expect an answer, and to be heard. We suggested a procedure that incorporated those elements to the developer's agents. Now, the developer would not discuss scheduling a meeting like that with us. So in consequence, we could not schedule a meaningful substitute for one of our in-person meetings. As our letter explains, we also did not receive full information from them to share with our neighbors and did not receive the materials we did get from them in a timely fashion. They sent us a deliberately blurred CDR packet, one that turned out to be a much smaller file than the one that they had filed with the city. It had low quality plan images that we couldn't read. Only after the Planning Commission staff posted those documents could we read the legible copy. Then, last Thursday, before Labor Day at 8 p.m. at night, the developers sent us a revised CDR packet that still isn't posted on the city's site. At that time, that was the Thursday night before Labor Day weekend, they also sent us a 579-page traffic study that we had requested long before, and that bore a date of August 7th. We still haven't received other documents about this project that we requested from the developers that have been filed with public agencies and that are public records in the hands of those agencies. For instance, this site is environmentally sensitive, but we haven't been allowed to see documents about the construction that are filed with the Department of Environmental Protection. We haven't been allowed to see a full copy of the zoning plan with the scale, legend, notes, zoning information form charts. All those have been cropped off in the documents that we've been shown. The charts are significant because they would show us how and why the project is by right. And that's something we think people are entitled to know. It's important for understanding the project. People in our neighborhood need to see it. We haven't seen the streets department's or PennDOT's comments on the revised traffic study that's just recently been dumped on us. Those aren't the only documents that we saw from the developer and not received, but they're some of the more important ones. We think that we and our neighbors need access to those documents before a civic proceeding in order to understand what this huge project will mean for its surroundings and for our neighborhood. We think that a community benefits agreement will be desirable and important to work out because of the expected impact on the neighborhood. But because we've been allowed to know so little about this project, we haven't been able to develop discussion of a CBA with either the developer or the end user of the property, UPS, because we don't have the full details of how much this is going to affect surrounding neighborhoods. Really, we're not being allowed to know how serious the impact of the traffic, air pollution, noise, light, and other externalities that this site is going to generate, so we can't discuss or negotiate in an informed fashion. When we've asked for information from the developer's agents in the past, our requests have been ignored, and they've urged us to schedule a CDR, a civic proceeding before the CDR without having any of the information that we needed in hand. We've been asked by the developers to rely on procedures for a substitute for an in-person RCO meeting that would not allow people in our neighborhood a practical opportunity to participate or to be heard like they'd have at one of our in-person meetings. From our perspective, we think that this matter should be continued. We think the developer should be asked to provide to Somerton Civic and to our neighbors the information about the project's impacts on our neighborhood, both good and bad, information that we've requested many times. We also think that there should be a meaningful substitute for an in-person neighborhood meeting held in which our members and neighbors will have a meaningful opportunity to ask questions, to make comments, and to participate and be heard. We remain ready, willing, and able to host this proceeding to give our neighbors the opportunities to participate that they should have. Now, our board still hasn't been provided with the means to know the impacts of the project, and neither of our neighbors, but we believe that the traffic, noise, light, and air pollution impacts of this project are going to be significant, and they need to be addressed by the developer, not just swept under a rug of secrecy. We're concerned with how these issues will affect the streetscape, the livability, walkability, bikeability, and drivability of roads near the project and in the wider neighborhood. We're concerned about the flow of traffic to and from the development all day and night, including tractor trailers and other large trucks. Our board has seen some landscape screening and a sound wall shown in the documents, but since we haven't been allowed to know anything about the noise or air pollution or light impacts of the site, it's hard to say whether what's proposed is adequate. The landscape screening looks sparse to us, though, and the wall looks unsightly. The trees shown look like they'll shed their leaves in the fall and leave wide open views of the site from many angles. They don't seem to be nearly enough of them. We don't know what effect the trees will have for screening sound because we don't know anything. The developers haven't told us about the sounds that operations like this can be expected to generate. The building's height and scale seem likely to stand in stark contrast to the residential neighborhoods around it. The aerial artist rendering of the site that you see in the CDR documents shows a green field to the west that's actually a nearly complete development of single-family houses. We don't know why it's shown that way, but given the scale of the project and other neighborhoods around it, that one aerial view seems kind of misleading about the project's surroundings. We know nothing from what we've been shown about the light impacts on neighbors, and we wonder how the extensive new paved surfaces will affect stormwater runoff. We haven't had time to review the whole traffic study received on Thursday night, but it was limited to intersections on Red Lion Road, and we're concerned about the impacts of the thousands of vehicle trips and hundreds of tractor trailers daily and nightly, not only on Red Lion itself, but in residential neighborhoods nearby, where both UPS vehicles and traffic backed up by UPS-related traffic on the red line are likely to be detoured. We're also concerned about the impacts on the property's business neighbors along Sandmeyer, Red Line, Bustleton Avenue, and elsewhere. The Complete Streets Checklist and other CDR documents that we've been allowed to see don't say anything about traffic light sequence changes, which we think could be very important to how traffic will move or not move in our very automobile-dependent part of the city. Unfortunately, we haven't seen these documents and the information that we will need to understand and assess the project. Our neighbors haven't seen them either. I can't provide details about the reaction of people in Somerton to the developer's presentation of this project because my neighbors haven't heard from the developer or been allowed to examine the important documents. But I know that many people are very concerned about what they've heard about this based on the information the developer has allowed to trickle out so far. Members of the Civics Board want to ensure first that people in Somerton receive full information and documentation, and second, that they have a meaningful opportunity to participate and be heard in an RCO proceeding hosted by Somerton Civic about what this project means for the neighborhoods nearby. I just heard the staff comments, and I think that the comments about the furnishing zone and the bikeway were very sensible. And I think that retaining trees and adding a denser tree canopy will be helpful. There's space on the property to go very far in that regard, I think. Water features, I heard mentioned, would also be helpful. Certainly, given the amount of dirt that's been shipped onto the property, I would kind of expect that the berms would be more extensive in areas that were sound and light sensitive. Now, concerning one point that was made by the staff, I'm a little skeptical of the extent to which bicycles and public transit would be used to access the site. I think it's going to lead to more passenger vehicle traffic than is anticipated. This meeting started at 1, so I want to thank the CDR panel and any neighbors in Somerton or nearby who have been listening for your time. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And with that, we should open it up for public comment. And do we have anyone?
Yes, Nancy, we have several public commenters.
You to manage?
Okay.
Casey, do you want me to start with the people with the raised hands?
Yes, please, Abby.
Okay, so first up is Nancy Wable.
Can you hear me?
Yes, if you could introduce yourself and then tell us what you'd like to tell us.
Okay, my name is Nancy Wable and I'm with the Bustleton Civic League, and I live less than a half a mile from this proposed warehouse. The Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, from roughly 2008 to 2013, there were approximately 3,000 collisions or accidents on the boulevard. Unfortunately, those crashes produced 40 fatalities with pedestrians and cars. Now, it's publicly acknowledged that State Farm has committed that Red Line Road and Grand Avenue, respectively, are the most dangerous intersections in the country, not just only in the city. So bad that in 2004 they put in red light cameras. It's a 2.5 mile trek for these almost 5,000 trucks that are going to be traveling up and down. You have a middle school that they get off at Red Line in Vary, and they have to cross there. Washington High School, they've had several children over the past 20, 30 years hit at Bustleton and Red Line because they cross the street to go to McDonald's. They have to cross Red Line Road. The kids at Swenson High School, which is on the opposite side of the boulevard, some of them have gotten hit because the light timings, they can't make it. Nobody on the boulevard up and down the whole length can make it in one traffic light over, 16 lanes of highways, or is it 12? They have to go halfway, wait till the next light changes to get to the other half. and some of them have not made it. This is my concern. Then you have these trucks are traveling down for 2.5 miles, mostly residential properties. And those factories that were put in up on Global Road, across from them, behind those houses that were put in about 10, 15 years ago, they've been there for many, many years. That's my problem I have with the traffic. I'm not going to be able to get out of my side street. I'm going to have to go to Red Line and Vree. I've been hit, rear-ended in the back at Red Line and Vree, and I was waiting at a red light at Red Line and Vree going towards the boulevard and got rear-ended. So that's twice. I've lived here 65 years, and I don't appreciate this great big warehouse being put. They're not showing you all the residential properties around there. That's my comment.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next is Adrian Corda.
Good evening. Thank you for holding the meeting and listening to our concerns. I'm also a Bustleton resident. I live at 646 Artwood Drive. I did notice on the traffic display slide, you did not include Roosevelt Boulevard and Red Lion. And as the previous speaker spoke about, that is one of the 5 most dangerous in the U.S. I believe that this is an artillery road that is near food supply stores, large shopping areas, which is congested already. The amount of traffic by semis and delivery trucks, although I appreciate the fine service that UPS does, I'm not sure if the traffic can be handled with the way this road is. It's a long access. It's an unsafe access. There are very mixed uses. It's residential. Again, there's an Acme store, which, we're underserved with food stores as it is. So many people from the Somerton area do go there. The traffic is bad enough as it is. It would be important for me to be able to see a thorough and wider distance traffic improvement plan for me to be comfortable with the growth in traffic that this will present. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next is Lenny Greenfield.
Mr. Greenfield, you're showing up as unmuted, but I can't hear you. I still cannot hear you. Let's try to go to the next person and come back to Mr. Greenfield.
Okay. So next is someone signed in as UPS CDR.
If you can, you could unmute them, and the first thing to do is introduce yourself and then tell us what you want to tell us.
Hi, my name is Barbara Eckenrode. I am a resident of Bustleton, and I am just so angry and frustrated that this project's been allowed to be developed without any community input. This is a monster building and with monstrous amount of traffic. Traffic is a big issue. This hasn't been addressed accurately. I know they've done traffic studies at 10 intersections, but what happens to these trucks after they pass those 10 intersections? These trucks cannot make the turns now. And this is a small number than what we're supposed to be expecting. I hope there can be some sort of delay so we as communities, the community can get involved and have a meeting with the planner and development. I have no idea why they picked an area to develop in the middle of a residential neighborhood that has been there for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Maureen.
Hello, I'm also a resident of Bustleton. I was previously a long-time board member for the Greater Bustleton Civic League, and I have to say that I am really appalled at the fact that the Civic League has not had any meeting with the public so membership could meet with the developers. I am appalled that there has been so little public support for neighbors that are taxpayers that are living in this area. And I have a number of questions about this proposal. The first is that I don't believe that this is a general industrial, I believe this is a general industrial site. I don't believe this is really an L2 site. In the definition for general industrial, it says industrial uses that because of their scale or method of operation regularly produce odors, dust, noise, vibration, truck traffic, or other external impacts that are detectable beyond the property lines of the subject property. I don't think that this is a by right process. They have not met it. They are nothing but bringing trucks and noise and vibration into the area. I was amused to see the parts that I could thumb through over the holiday weekend on the traffic study that they must have found the most idyllic moments to take pictures to show you of what the intersections that they chose to show you look like. Some of them had no cars at all. Some of them had 1 or 2 cars. I have lived in this specific neighborhood for 34 years. The only time that you could find no cars is if the roads were blocked so people couldn't get through there. It is absolutely an inane representation of our neighborhood. Traffic is already abominable. Trying to get from Bustleton north on Bustleton Avenue, not even at rush hour, takes forever. And this is before we'll have all these trucks coming in. It's not only a Bustleton or a Somerton issue because the places that these trucks will be coming from are not Bustleton or Somerton. These trucks are going to have to get off of the turnpike. They're going to get off of I-95. They're going to get off of Route 1. And they will be going through numerous other neighborhoods that are also residential neighborhoods. And they will be crossing Roosevelt Boulevard one way or another, which is, as you've heard, among the most dangerous intersections in the United States, and has been. I mean, that's why a lot of things have been instituted on Roosevelt Boulevard, because of just how dangerous it is, and it remains so dangerous. So the traffic study, I don't understand. There's another problem, which is that this is not the only such building that is going on right now. Buildings all over zip codes 19115, 19116, 19114, and 19154 are being either purchased, looked at, built on spec, or are already currently under contract and under construction for the same type of operation. So the magnitude of the trucks coming into this area is unfathomable. We have Amazon that's already secured things not far from this. There are going to be trucks, trucks, and trucks. I don't know how anybody is going to get anywhere with the number of trucks. We've already been subjected in the area to windborne dust because they plopped dirt there without telling people why. It's a sensitive area that has had tremendous problems with the industrial hazards that were left there. We have no idea what was in the dirt. We have no idea what's been blowing around to people, and we have no opportunity to ask because they just have a right to do whatever they damn well please. And that is not how this is all supposed to work. This is supposed to be an interactive opportunity where people can ask questions, where people can get some support. And if it comes that we have to fight this, we should have had the opportunity to know what to fight. And that's just not how this process has been working. So the other question that I really have is, one of the problems that we have up here, and this last, I guess, 2 years, it's been ramping up. In the last year, even worse, is that tractor trailers are parking everywhere. There are tractor trailers parked on roads where they're actually in the traffic lanes, they're parking on bridges, because many of the locations like this, or even, you know, a Walmart or, you know, a supermarket, have requirements that trucks appear within a narrow range of time. There's no place for these trucks to park to wait to appear. We don't know whether that's going to be an issue here. Do they give their people slots and they have to show up during that slot? And if they're 15 minutes early, if they're 2 hours early, they have to go find some place to park? We have no idea. So, you know, we're very, very concerned. And I think we're rightfully concerned about a project of this magnitude where there is no discussion. In fact, Lower Moreland, which it's not even in Lower Moreland, this is in the city of Philadelphia, Lower Moreland has had more effective communication than we have. And I think that this is something that your committee, I know that you are not the be all and end all, you're an advisory group, you don't have, you know, you don't have armed agents that can go out and help us with this, but I think you're our last hope that we have the opportunity to do what should have been done all along. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Can I ask that you introduce yourself, because I didn't want to interrupt you once you got going, but if you could introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm so sorry. My name is Maureen Green, and I am a resident, a 34-year resident of Bustleton. And for a large portion of that time, I was on the executive board for the Greater Bustleton Civic League.
Great, thank you so much. Who will be next?
So we're going to try Lenny Greenfield again.
Okay.
Hello, is this working?
Yes.
Oh, sorry about the technical difficulties. My name is Lenny Greenfield. I'm a local business owner on Bustleton Avenue of an industrial facility. And just reviewing that late drop of that traffic study, I had two questions. One was, a lot of their assessments based on the overall traffic improvements they require are based on an assumption of how much traffic they're producing, which does not appear to be similar to what the site would actually produce when you apply the actual metrics from the Institute of Transportation Engineers. So it looks like they've lowballed the numbers. And I was wondering if there's someone at the city or state level who can verify this study, because right now it's UPS providing numbers on estimates where it's in their best interest to provide low numbers so they don't have to make changes. And then my other question, which is environmentally related, is these retention ponds over lined basins are fine and good year 1, year 2, but down the line, year 20, when those can potentially break down or when those retention basins have to be dredged or maintained, the potential for ripping that liner or that liner degrading exists. And then the mobility of those PCBs that are below each of those detention basins can start migrating to the surface and infecting birds that fly in and land there, or just evaporating off and blowing into the neighboring surrounding area. And what safeguards are they going to put in place to prevent that from happening?
Thank you. There is someone in the Q&A who wants to get off mute. Abby, is this someone someone to comment for the public?
Yeah, I could see their hand is raised.
Okay, great.
Okay. Jack, you're unmuted, or you can unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Please introduce yourself and tell us what you want us to know.
Hi, thank you, Mrs. Trainer. My name is Jack Bienenfeld. I'm probably the largest landowner on Red Lion Road. I know I am. And therefore, and we've been here at this location. I'm actually speaking from Red Lion Road right now. Our office is on Red Lion Road, and we've been at this location for over 40 years and been part of the community here for over 60 years. I have great anxiety about this development. I've chosen to try to use the civic associations as my voice, and they've been incredibly receptive. No one from the city of Philadelphia, no one from the developer has reached out to me. I find that odd since we own hundreds and hundreds of feet on Red Lion Road. Historically, we've had residents killed walking across the street. We've had residents maimed walking across the street. And now we don't even have a voice. I am not opposed to development. I am a developer. I'm opposed to development that lacks transparency. We, the community, should have a voice here, and our voice isn't being heard. They have provided some minimum information with regards to traffic, and that traffic study came very, very late. Therefore, the community association could not hire the professionals to review that traffic study in any reasonable period of time. I understand that they will be able to review that traffic study. They've hired a traffic engineer to review the traffic study, but they need more time. This development has potential to be catastrophic to my investment. My investment covers hundreds and hundreds of apartments along that street, includes a shopping center along that street, and honestly, I can't imagine how quickly this development is being pushed through without my having been aware of it, to the point where there's equipment running on that. Development's underway. I've never heard of a CDR meeting coming after construction already started. And I'll go a little bit further. I live within 1 mile of this site. I pray within a half mile of this site every Saturday. A lot of my fellow congregants walk to the synagogue. I think that my wife jogs on that street every day. A little sidewalk along what is now going to be this one red line road does nothing. I mean, I don't even know if anyone will ever use that sidewalk other than the actual people that work at that plant. There is so much pedestrian traffic along that corridor. As it is right now, I think many of the neighborhood residents have spoken eloquently about how difficult it is sometimes to even get out onto Red Line Road. If I have to leave my office during rush hour, I need to make a right-hand turn and go east. I cannot go west. My home is west. I urge the CDR to give the community a voice. To give the community a voice that they deserve, for the developer to be more transparent. And again, I am not against development. I've spoken to a large number of the other major commercial property owners on this corridor, and we are all concerned. I think it's unfortunate that a meeting or multiple meetings with the community haven't taken place. It's not too late. This developer should sit down and meet with the community. This is a remarkable community. I mean, they've not always blessed the projects that I've wanted to build in their community, but they've always listened. They've always listened thoughtfully. And I can say the same about the elected officials. They've always listened thoughtfully. This is a time for everyone to come together and to voice their concerns and to try to find solutions to those concerns. That's all I have to say.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone else?
Yes, Ruth Housen, you can now unmute yourself.
Okay, and if I could ask that you state your name, limit yourself to 3 minutes, and if you largely are in agreement with the speakers before, just be as brief as you can and tell us that you agree. I think there's a clear pattern of comments. So,
hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, I'm Ruth Housen, and I'm actually from Lower Moreland, and we want to thank you for coming out and meeting with us. We have not yet had time to review the traffic study either. We're also very concerned with the residents who had already bought houses at that corner who have not had a say or a hearing or known at all about this UPS facility when they did. We're worried about noise, light pollution, and similar things. We're also very worried about the steep incline on Red Lion Road after Pine Road, which you didn't look at all. And that we hope you consider not sending tractor trailers in that direction at all. It is very steep incline. There was recently a fatality there, and we're very, very worried about all of these trucks trying to get up and down on that road. So basically, I agree with everything that the people before me have said, and I'm also asking that you consider a delay in approval of this facility until we've had time to review. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is David Bauer.
Okay.
You can now unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you for letting me speak. You know, I agree with everything everybody said, but I think I'm going to take a little bit different tact. And
Could I ask that you introduce yourself, even though your name is up on the screen?
Oh, I'm sorry, David Bauer, and I live on Varee Road. I've been here for 19 years. I live approximately 1 mile from the proposed project. And while I agree with everything that everybody has said, I'm going to probably take a little bit different tact and say that, candidly, I think it's ludicrous to think that a review and making modifications, even significant modifications to traffic patterns, the lights, adding a little widening a sidewalk is going to help mitigate the disaster that this is going to do by probably having well over 1,000 trucks a day coming in and out 24/7. You know, and that includes pollution, all the other things everybody's talked about. I mean, I can't even make a turn because you have all these SUVs, and you can't make a left turn because you can't see over. Now you're going to have that. So these modifications that have been proposed, even if you take them to 10 degrees further, are irrelevant. It's like if I owe you $1,000 and I said, well, here's $1. Well, yeah, I guess I don't owe you quite as much. On another front, I candidly think the folks who talked earlier on this call really gave a misrepresentation of this project. The first gentleman who spoke said there's some quote unquote residential in the area. Well, this is a residential neighborhood. I've been in a 1 million square foot warehouse. I've never seen them in a residential area. They're in farms, they're in rural areas. The pictures that were shown, lovely pictures of grass and water. In one of the pictures, there were 3 trucks. In another picture, I think there were approximately 15 trucks. Again, that's just a gross misrepresentation by these folks about what this project entails. So I'm going to now come up with what I think could be a solution. This is land in the middle of a residential area. Nobody in the neighborhood wants it. It's going to be a disaster for the neighborhood. Traffic, pollution, light, et cetera, et cetera. Can't we do a land swap? And I use this, I don't know what land the city owns, but I look at the prison off of State Road. There's got to be hundreds, if not thousands of acres there that there's nothing there. It's right off of 95. There's no residences. Why can't we consider or look to moving this project to there? I still would be against it, but again, I think there's a potential solution that makes it better for the residents in the neighborhood and then also better for UPS because they won't have to deal with all the traffic that's going to be in the area. I appreciate you giving me hopefully I didn't go over the 3 minutes. If I did, I apologize. But again, this is an unmitigated disaster and changing these minor things is going to have zero impact on the disaster that this is.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, next is Kathy.
Do you have any sense, Abby, of how many more folks we have?
Yeah, we have 12 hands raised.
Okay.
Hello, Kathy. Kathy had to, this is Bill. Kathy had to leave because of the length of this meeting. So I William Hill. I'm representing Stellwagen Roofing Supply at 10096 Sandmeyer Lane. We are adjacent to the proposed large truck entryway, which means our driveway crosses right in front of their proposed driveway that we bring tractor trailers in, just like they're going to be bringing in tractor trailers. Stellwagens is a small WBE in the city of Philadelphia since 1853. We have stores all throughout the city. This is our major hub. The lack of communication and disrespect shown to the existing residents and businesses is abhorrent. I never ever was in a situation where the developer treated people so poorly. Unfortunately, this has been our only opportunity to even talk to the developer through you guys, and we appreciate it. We all hope the land development is a success. We're all business people, we're all residents of the area, but not at the expense of the residents and the existing businesses, and that is exactly what they're doing. The developer, the government, and the UPS need to hear our concerns because it will affect UPS at that entryway at my building just as much as it's going to affect us, because my tractor trailers will be parked in front of their entryway. And I've asked many times to talk to these people. I share all the concerns of the residents and the business owners, but in addition, I have the concerns that no one has gone all the way up Sandmeyer Lane to the end of the cul-de-sac and talked to myself, the trucking company that's across the street from me, Townscapes, Get a Car. We all have the same trucks crossing over the same real estate. So if there's a truck that has to go out of the UPS facility and I have a truck trying to get in my facility, I don't know how that works. And no one is addressing that. If everyone comes at the same time, there'll be accidents. I mean, I don't understand why they wouldn't come to us and talk to us about it. How are all the trucks that transverse at the same point of this cul-de-sac? How are they, what is UPS's plan? I see where they stop and put the sidewalk and all, but from that cul-de-sac all the way around to that orange line, I want to know how they're going to bring trucks in and out of there without affecting all the existing businesses that are there. My driveway and their driveway are at a 90-degree angle. So if my truck pulls out and their truck pulls out, one of us can't pull out. So there's going to be delays in the street, and there's going to be potential accidents that happen with this. And this will affect UPS as much as it'll affect everybody else. Stellwagen has trucks coming from all over the United States, and we cannot time when these trucks arrive. Sometimes we have multiple trucks arrive at the same time. We do our best to organize them and get them on the street and get them into our facility as quickly as possible. There are times that other people have trucks there at the same time, so sometimes it becomes difficult. No one has been here to see all the issues. We've been here for 12 years, and we've seen most of the issues, and here are some of them. The bus turns around there. There's a bus turn around there. I don't know how the bus is going to turn around there with all the trucks going on. The snow removal in that cul-de-sac is a joke. I do the snow removal, and Sarah Valley does the snow removal. There's not enough parking. We already have double parked cars and tractor trailers of cars being unloaded in the middle of the street 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's been asked to the councilman and to the government to address. They've tried, but we've gotten nowhere with that.
I'm gonna try start.
No, just let me finish. I gotta start. There's street racing on this street that has killed people. People have died on this street. Trucks have flipped over, and no one's addressing that stuff. And I'll just leave you with this: if we can't get together with the developer, then I believe if it's myself, I'm going to start a lawsuit. And I believe the business owners in this community are already talking about starting a lawsuit to stop this project because they have not done one thing to help this community. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. And I appreciate your time and the passion around this, just in order just to make sure that we get to everyone, because I know that there's still a number of people who haven't spoken. I'm going to start calling time at 3 minutes. So please, when you're called on, sort of state your name, be as succinct as you can, and we're going to start cutting people off after 3 minutes so everyone has a chance to speak. And if you're agreeing with the issues that have already been spoken, you can just say, I agree with everything that I've heard so far, because I think we're getting a very, very clear pattern about communication, traffic. You know, so if you're in agreement with the general issues, let's just I want you to be heard, but I also want to make sure that everyone can be heard. So Abby, go ahead and let somebody else in.
Next is Jack O'Hara.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Introduce yourself and then tell us what you want us to know.
Yes, this is Jack O'Hara. I am president of the Greater Bustleton Civic League. The Greater Bustleton Civic League is an old, almost 80-year-old RCO in the city, and we border, our northern border is Red Line Road. So the block face is one Red Line Road. And I understand, Madam Chairman, that this is a design review, but you can tell from the commentary that this is the first, literally the first opportunity that the community's had to participate in any public presentation. So you can hear the frustration. This was announced 2 years ago. We've been asking for 2 years for information and meetings, and this is literally the first. It was said earlier, the developer has not met with the community yet, and we're hoping that's going to happen. You know, unlike, you know, I was sitting through these earlier cases, and they are minor compared to this in size. This is massive. 5,000 additional cars on the road per day, 1,800 parking spaces, over 1 million square feet of warehouse, without a commitment from the developer not to increase that size, by the way. So it's 1.6 or whatever number is being used today, but it could get larger. You know, we said earlier, Jack Benenfeld, this has the potential of just devastating this community. And I'm sure your board has heard many of these before, and I'm sure you recognize that. We understand the use is by right, I too, but the proposed use is overly intense, overuse. You know, as you heard from all of these people, the Bustleton community is totally, solidly opposed to this project, both residents and businesses. There was an email letter sent to the CDR earlier this morning from Ron Sandmeyer, Sandmeyer Steel. There is a coalition of businesses along Sandmeyer Lane, which I believe this last gentleman was part of, who has written to you, and you could read it, I could read it, but it really articulates these business owners who have been there for generations, how upset they are about what's coming their way. So the community's main concern, traffic is obviously the main thing we talked about, is environmental as much as it should. But you know, my apologies to everyone, you know, the committee sitting there, but there are no design improvements that are going to make this project any more an acceptable fit into the community. There just is nothing you can do to sugarcoat this. You know, with everything you've heard, I'd like to request at this point that a second CDR be scheduled. It was stated earlier, we just got a lot of this documentation late. We have hired consultants, we have hired traffic engineers. They have not had the time to really pick this apart. As I'm sitting here, I'm getting emailed as they're reading it, and they're picking this apart. One gentleman, the traffic engineer, said that the trick generation manual that he always uses is not being used in the calculation of these traffic volumes. So there's a lot to pull apart here.
And I thank you for your comments, and we do need to move on because we want to make sure everyone gets heard. But thank you very much.
That's fine. Thank you.
So next we have a call-in user. If your phone number ends with 7649, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, and I can't see that, so.
I can see that they've unmuted themselves, but I can't hear anything.
Okay,
Oh, hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
we can now. So if you could introduce yourself and tell us what you need to tell us in 3 minutes or less.
Yeah, Carl Jadek from Bustleton area. I'm a member of Greater Bustleton Civic League. My comments are basically the backup alarms on the UPS trucks and the 18-wheelers that they plan on bringing in. The sound mitigation seems very limited, and then just water features splashing doesn't cut that powerful backup beeping tone that OSHA requires vehicles to have. They need to do something more extensive than what they're trying to propose, from what I can tell, okay, from the little bit of information that I've seen. The other thing is, concern is about lighting, okay? Gary Barbera on Roosevelt Boulevard, drive by that at night, you think there's a circus there. It's so bright, you can eat off the sidewalk, okay? What is UPS going to do with the light mitigation? Yeah, they're going to direct lights inward to a certain extent, but it's still going to radiate out. They need to do something to protect the residential area behind and the residential area across the street. The other thing is traffic. The reports were just gotten there, but it seems a little fishy. Some of the information that's been presented needs to be analyzed better. So asking that there be more time, extended to the community to research these areas. And that's about it. My comments for now. Thank you very much. Appreciate your listening to me.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Sabu John.
Hi, this is Susan Sabu. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Thank you for giving us the opportunity. I also belong to the Greater Bustleton Civic League. I am specifically from the Island Green Estates at Country Club Boulevard and Red Line Road, which is one of the entrances of the spoken about facility. I think you've probably heard all the anxiety that we all have from not knowing, and any project that you start with looking at all the stakeholders, and nobody thought about us. Specifically, the street right in front of me, the traffic is horrendous already. There's a two-lane road becoming smaller to a one-lane road going towards Pine Road, and then it goes down to a railroad track. Already that whole intersection is blocked with just one-way traffic going each way. Nobody can turn already. There's not any space to widen the sidewalk. As it is, the sidewalk can only take about 1 to 2 persons walking, barely next to each other. And it's not even cemented correctly. So I'm not really sure how we're going to extend that space. But space, noise, everything. Already they've started leveling the ground, and starting in the wee hours of the morning, that backup truck or whatever that beeping is going on is on until they're done. So I can't imagine this happening all the time. We have UPS, we'll have DHL, we have FedEx, we have USPS, all coming in and out of these streets, in addition to the regular traffic, which sometimes I come out of my development, I look to the left and I see, okay, Pine Road, they're all stopped up. I can't go that way. Now I look to the right and I see, okay, that's all stopped up to Varee Road. So which way do we go? We already cannot get out of here. And now if we have all the trucks, everybody's going to be waiting. There's no time to be waiting. Everybody's on time limit. Everybody works 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours. I'm a nurse myself. I got to get out of here when I got to get out of here. You know what I mean? So it's kind of difficult, and we're hoping that you'll give us another chance to speak to you about this development. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Michael Herskovitz.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. My name is Michael Hershkovitz. I'm also a member of the Greater Bustleton Civic League, and I live within a walking distance from this site. I've been here for 30 plus years, so I know the area pretty well. I'm not going to repeat what everybody has already said. You've heard about it, like you said, you see the trend. But there's a couple of things that I'd like to point out that I'm hoping the staff can look at or take a second look at. One is the information that you have been provided is truly misclassified and intended to mislead. And that's very disappointing, knowing that UPS is a relatively credible company. But for example, if you look at the traffic study, it already says that with current traffic, the intersection we've been talking about are either approaching unstable flow or they are an unstable flow. That's what the studies show. And yet they're not accounting for the impact of their additional traffic on those unstable flows. UPS classified the place as a warehouse. In fact, it's not a warehouse, but it's a high cube parcel warehouse. If they would use that definition, the traffic study would have had to use a much higher volume and the impact would have been much more noticeable. We were talking the fact that between the boulevard and the entrance, it's only a 2-mile stretch with 7 traffic lights. If you expect 3 or 4 tractor trailers per green light to get through, all you can envision during their rush hour, even by their own conservative numbers, is a single line of tractor trailers stretching from the boulevard all along Red Lion Road, which is only a 2-lane highway, and in most cases has a very short left turn that blocks one of those lanes. So I'm hoping that the staff can ask the developer to really provide more accurate and more credible information. And I look forward to you scheduling a second review. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Shannon Lindsay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Shannon Lindsay. I lived for about 15 years across the street from this proposed development in Island Green. I recently moved about a mile away to Lower Moreland, so I'm still really engaged in this. I know that I've got 3 minutes, so I'll just say I agree with everything that everybody has said, but I want to say specifically that I'm incredibly disappointed with the traffic engineer from the city of Philadelphia who spoke earlier, the map that we're looking at right now that has all of these yellow dots along Red Lion Road. I feel like his job is to explain to the residents and the neighbors about what kind of improvements specifically they're thinking about to make this more viable. Just saying that you've identified these specific spots for upgrades or improvements is not enough for us. We want to know specifics. We've been asking for specifics for 2 years now. And it would have been really helpful for him as a city employee, not an employee of UPS or the developer, to help us out here, help us understand what kind of improvements you're planning or thinking or going to suggest to the developer. And further, that same gentleman from the city, when it was originally Teva that was going to build there, he promised us that trucks would never come in and out of that entrance on Country Club Boulevard. He said it would always be Sandmeyer. And now a new development is coming and now suddenly we hear another story. So I just want to say I would expect this from UPS, but I really expected something better from the city traffic engineer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And unless I'm mistaken and it's late and my memory may be foggy, but my understanding is that the traffic engineer we heard from is not a city traffic engineer, but is working for the developer. So just to clarify that it's the engineering firm working for the developer who made the presentation.
Okay, next is Rennie Thomas. You can unmute yourself now. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'll be very, very brief. So many people have echoed some of the things that I was going to say. But I'd like to say that even though I'm not opposed to commerce and business, I believe this development has employed subterfuge, deception, and duplicity to achieve their end. So that is of great concern. Also creates a certain amount of anxiety. But the other issues are the traffic, as other people have mentioned, is unbearable now. Many of these side roads or roads surrounding this project become a parking stop or a parking lot and come to a standstill during rush hour. So I don't know how they're going to fit all of these, not just 18-wheelers, but also all of these distribution trucks that come out that deliver parcels to residences. Also, the tractor trailers are going to be going towards the eastern side, towards the boulevard. They're going to be sharing a road with regular car passengers, drivers, including my wife and my young kids. I've seen tractor trailers that have come and run over small cars and have killed children and so forth. So that's going to be very, very hard to share these roads with tractor trailers. It's very intimidating. You could make a mistake as well riding on the same road with them. Then the other things I was going to mention is that even though this parcel of land is zoned industrial, it was zoned industrial at a time many, many years ago when it was surrounded by farms when the bud plant was there. Originally started. Now you see a higher density of residences all around that parcel of land. So it was zoned industrial at a very, very different time when it was mostly farmland. Then the other thing is that these distribution vehicles will also add traffic to the surrounding area, not just the 18-wheelers that bring in the mass amount of packages to be sorted. Also, the 900 or so employees will also add to the aggregate total in terms of traffic because it's a 24-hour operation. The other thing that I'm concerned about is diesel emissions. Diesel emissions and the particulates that they release into the air, which could condemn a lot of people to pulmonary distress and long-term pulmonary problems that live not just in and around that area, but further out. It'll affect Lower Moreland, Southampton, all of these areas because these emissions will travel longer distances. I yield. Thank you.
I do need to call time. So I think we get a very strong message and hear what you're saying, and thank you for saying it. We still have 84 participants on the phone, which is incredible for a CDR meeting at 7 o'clock exactly, which I think is a new record. I want to make sure people are heard, but we're losing staff members to childcare pickups. I don't want to lose a quorum of our committee, and I want to make sure we have time for both some committee discussion and to take a vote. So I'm going to ask you, Abby, how many people are left with raised hands?
We have 4 people with their hands raised.
Okay, so I'm going to ask those 4 people to be absolutely as succinct as you can. And if you just agree, or if you just say my top 3 issues are traffic, noise, and process, or whatever it is that your top issues are, if we can get through it quickly, I want to hear what you have to say, but we also need to be able to get to a vote this evening.
Okay. First up is Rod Sandmeyer.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I'm Rod Sandmeyer, Executive Vice President of Sandmeyer Steel Company on the corner of Sandmeyer Lane and Red Line Road, adjacent to the facility. Keeping it very brief, of course, we are here to support both our business community neighbors and our residential community neighbors. Our company has been in this building since 1963, so we've seen a lot of change and growth over the years. While we are certainly understanding that change in development is going to happen, concerned about the process that this has gone through, lack of communications from the developer, et cetera. Interesting hearing the various comments. I would confirm and agree with Bill and Jack from the Bustleton Group and also from Sandmeyer Lane. And I think from, obviously there's a little bit of a concern relative to how traffic is going to be entering this facility, whether it's from the Red Lion Road facility or from the Sandmeyer Lane facility. You know, this lane was built in 1974, 75, and it was designed and built to serve the 20 businesses that are here, not to be the front driveway to a UPS facility that's going to be serving 1,000 trucks a day. And thank you for taking all of our comments, and we look forward to a second meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Judith Livy. You can now unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. I am a member of the Greater Bustleton Civic League and a resident of Bustleton since 1988. I thank Mr. O'Hara for his continued efforts in this matter, and you would be wise to work with him and the Civic League. I agree with all that has been said with all the callers. Lastly, I am a retired teacher and grandmother, and I wish to say, are you aware there are numerous schools in the area, and some serve special ed students. Also, there are many senior residences on Red Lion and also along Bustleton near Red Lion. And I am concerned for the safety and well-being of our children and seniors. We also have many new residents from many countries in this area. They often have difficulty with language and customs and traffic laws. As I feel this is a disaster in progress, there will be injuries, fatalities, and many lawsuits, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Matt Jackson.
Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Thank you. So I'm Matt Jackson. I'm a lifelong resident of Philadelphia, but I just moved to the Bustleton area in November of 2019. And I stand in solidarity with all the neighbors and businesses in Bustleton and Somerton. And I believe this would be a catastrophe and it can't happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the last person now is Mark Jeffrey. Mark, you are unmuted, or you can unmute yourself.
And after Mr. Jeffrey, I think we have one email to read.
Great. Do you want to read the email first, or do you want me to speak?
Nope, please introduce yourself and.
Great. My name's Mark Jeffrey. I'm with UPS. I'm the Vice President of State Government Affairs and Community Relations for UPS, and we've been working in this area with the project team. I can say that we do plan to host a community meeting when we have the opportunity to do so after COVID restrictions. We've made several outreaches and opportunities speaking with the community association to try to host a virtual meeting to allow some of this conversation to be had that's happening now that we've not been able to do. And unfortunately, the community association has not been able to move forward with that, with those requests up until this point. We did have a meeting scheduled at the end of March with Bustleton. At the time we were going to be meeting, and that meeting got canceled due to COVID, but it is our intention, you know, as part of this project to meet with the community, to hear their concerns, and to find ways to address those concerns as we move forward with this project. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Abby, is that it for the raised hands?
That's it.
Okay, and then Beige has one additional email to read.
Thank you, Nancy. This email is about stormwater, so a topic we haven't heard too much about yet. This is from Glenn Hench. In reference to stormwater runoff, which watersheds will this water be directed into? Paul's Run, Bollard's Brook, etc.
Also, specifically, approximately what percentage of the total runoff water will be directed into Paul's Run? We already know about the plans meeting the 100-year flood requirements with retention basins. The answers to the two questions have not been given thus far. The issue is that Paul's Run already has every issue related to overuse and has for many years, with nothing being done by PWD to correct these issues. Also, will there be any use of permeable paving materials to keep in line with being green and minimize stormwater runoff, as opposed to controlling water that runs off of impermeable surfaces? Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. And with that, the public comment period is over, and we turn it to the table. It's hard to add to that.
It's absolutely hard to add to that. It's another one of those circumstances where it would be a much shorter and easier meeting to discuss the sort of the boundaries of CDR as it relates to this project, had there been better interaction between the developer and the community. So it's tough. It's been a long day, right? I think that this is it's clearly a very large project, a very significant and important project too, because it creates 900 jobs in the city of Philadelphia. So you can't kind of ignore the economic reality of that, of the project and the impact in Philadelphia that creates jobs that are needed at this time. I think that the scale and the size of the project, if the developer should look at this site as being could be more of an amenity for the community in some way, and also because of the amount of green space that's on the site. This is also an opportunity to look at the ability to create some potential wildlife habitat as part of this redevelopment. I applaud the developer for looking at the opportunity to do solar on the roof. There are probably some other opportunities to look at energy generation on the site. I believe that there are ways that this project ultimately can be an asset potentially to the community if in fact there's more communication with the community. Those are my comments.
Thanks, Michael. And I would add to your comments. I mean, we can't overlook the idea of 900 plus jobs. And I would be curious if I were actually even here, I would, though it's clearly outside of CDR purview, I'd be interested in knowing for something of this scale, are they new jobs? Or are we moving them from somewhere else within the city? I'm interested in sort of a more macro look about where the trucks are coming from, or where, what's the flow of, how's this whole process working? Because it doesn't affect just this one site, and it doesn't affect just this 2-mile stretch, but really, where are the packages coming from? How are they handled? Where are they going? Demonstrate why is this the place in the city for this, and go from there. But it seems like without even that basic information, it's hard to assess traffic studies or anything else, and because the overarching question of how does this place work it hasn't really been answered. We're treating it like in some ways like a typical design problem, and it's really something a little bit different. And if I, and if I were, I would be interested in knowing how do you, what are best practices for limiting that annoying backup beeping noise? Is it a 24-hour facility? What are the acceptable limits of noise from outside, for neighboring facilities? What's what are the neighbors across the street going to hear? And, what is considered, best practice acceptable? And, and how can we assure that those are going to be met? I mean, I think that there are a lot of issues, and we've heard a lot, and they're not necessarily micro issues. They're still macro issues. Ashley?
I do have some things to say. I'll try to keep it brief. I also had a question about the number of jobs and just making sure that these are 900 jobs on site throughout the life of this site, or does that include construction numbers? So I think the residents and the city needs to honestly look at how many jobs are created in this 1 million square foot facility. And that being said, it's important to think about the impact and how many lives that could change. So, I do a lot of industrial site planning in my office, and I have a lot of thoughts about sustainability on this site. In all of this time, I looked up UPS's sustainability goals and metrics on their own website, and they talk a big game in terms of meeting their goals for 2025 and what that means, and reducing their emissions across their fleets and in their facilities. So even if this particular development team is somewhat committing to a green agenda, I know that UPS has said they would. So I think they need to, work with their tenant, even if the tenant pays for that kind of infrastructure, because they say that it's important to them. So in addition to the solar, I think it's important to talk about the landscape here. One thing I think residents should know is that berms and walls are the only things that mitigate noise reduction or help to mitigate noise. So we need them to plant maybe at least 1,000 more trees on this site. I'm not even kidding about that number. But if they really care about noise reduction, there needs to be a berm or a wall on all sides of this site, not just a couple. And then in terms of the types of plantings, the lawn doesn't do anything for anybody, and trees solve a lot of problems here. I would suggest a phytoforest with some really cheap poplars. They're 50 cents a tree in some instances at this scale. And that can help do a lot of things. It can pull a lot of those contaminants out of the soil, and it can mitigate some of those particulates from the diesel trucks. So, if this were my project, there would be a very intense look at the landscape and what it's doing for the neighborhood to mitigate all of these issues. And a lawn with some retention ponds and a tree line around some of the edges is not going to cut it. So it needs a lot of work, to be honest. And then I heard some residents talking about alternative transportation and that no one's going to bike or walk here. But if this site does come to fruition, I think it is really important to build in the infrastructure for residents who might not own a car and want to work here, or for residents to just have another option. So I just want the residents to keep that in mind, that you have a lot of land to work with here and a lot of room to play. And so those kinds of infrastructure, whether it be pedestrian or bicycle, can be built into the site plan where it would be safe for everybody entering and exiting. So, and just one more other point on the landscape. Make sure you include evergreen trees in some of these plantings. I think I heard that from one of the residents, and they were correct that if you are trying to mitigate some of these particulates from diesel trucks and whatever, deciduous trees drop their leaves in the fall, and so they are kind of useless in that manner. So it's really important to have a mix of trees to help to mitigate those emissions. Okay, that's on my list. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley. Anybody else from around the table? And I do want to point out that I think I heard them say they would structure the building for future solar. I don't think I heard them commit to solar panels for the roof.
I can read it from the website, but we don't need to get into that.
But I just pointing out that I don't think there was a commitment currently. But Dan, did you want to say anything, or should we? You're on mute, Dan.
No, I think Michael Johns captured the main issues, that this kind of dialogue needs to be handled prior to this meeting.
Absolutely, because this is not, first of all, much of this is outside of our purview. The other piece of this is that we only, our ability is limited to, we're not the zoning board. Our ability is limited to advising on design issues, and if there are significant issues, to asking someone to come back a second time. And these things really need to be addressed before then, obviously. And with that, and I do want to say, I just want to amplify one thing that Michael said earlier, and that was the idea of trying to make, to the extent possible, if this is going to be here, to try to make it something positive. I mean, to take something that is, how can this be a best case scenario, a model of what this kind of facility can be, in the way it's operated, in the way it deals with environmental issues. Is there, can we turn the story around from what we've heard for the last, more than an hour? And I do want to point out there's still 79 people after 7 o'clock having this discussion. One of those people is from the design team, or from the team. I want to give them 2 minutes to talk, and then I really want to go to our comments page and start taking our votes.
This is Carl Primavera. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to go on record, because there are members of the press listening, and I know we're abbreviated for time, but we met with Jack O'Hara pre-COVID. We met with Lower Moreland. They did a virtual with over 100 people participating. We were told by the councilman and the planning commission that we had to go through Somerton, and we've been begging for the past 4 months for a meeting with Somerton as the recognized RCO. And I hope your staff shared with you volumes of correspondence where he said that our bylaws don't let us meet virtually. And we said, well, these regulations from the city say you have to. And it's been torturous. Mark Giffray, who spoke earlier, was begging for a meeting. So this has all been designed by Somerton to strangle the project and hold us up. We have every reason to want to meet and discuss, but we've been blocked at every turn. And we submitted a whole resume, and I hope your staff shared that, because it was directed to the Commerce Department as well as to CDR and Planning Commission. And you'll see the correspondence and the madness of Chris Bordelon, who refused to meet under any circumstances unless it was either in person or he had every record that we filed with every agency. We've been working with PennDOT. We've been working with the city, Commerce Department, the governor's office. We have the finest company and the finest team working on this. And I just couldn't let it go unsaid that we've either been ignoring the community or insensitive. The councilman and his assistant, Alice Udovich, is entirely aware of the entire situation, how we've been frozen out by Somerton. And I was willing to do a meeting with Bustleton, because most of the calls were with Bustleton, but the planning commission staff said it had to be through the Somerton Civic. So we have been frozen out, and now we've been looked like the bad party. And I just couldn't let that go on record, because the impression you received over the last hour is entirely false. The people who are making these statements don't know, because quite frankly, the people who are blocking this because they don't want the project don't want the word to get out, because they don't want to have a meeting, because they don't want this process ever to be finalized. And I think, quite frankly, what you're hearing is people who want to pick apart the traffic studies. It's going to be a matter not over design, but over other issues. And I just want to make sure that it's on the record that the developer, UPS, the city, the governor's action team, everybody is trying to do this as best in class, environmental, water, streets. This is not something that's second or third rate. This is a major project. These are 900 new jobs, not including construction. This is the future of work in the city. And we have every intention to do whatever it takes to be a first-class developer here. But what has been said and what has been shared has either been false or based on misinformation. And I couldn't let this night go without having said that.
Mr. Primavera, thank you for clarifying that. I do also just want to point out that there are near neighbors, businesses and others, and that while it's required that you, by CDR, that you go through the coordinating RCO, it is, anything above and beyond that in terms of reaching out to Bustleton, in terms of holding your own public meetings, in terms of—
We offered to host, the Planning Commission offered to host, Councilman O'Neill offered to host. Everybody said that we will do the hosting, we will do everything humanly possible. UPS wanted to host. They have a whole group of people nationwide that could do this, and we were turned down at every stage. So
I hear you, and I hope in the interim, if this gets voted to continue, that you'll reach out not only to the organizing groups but also to near neighbors and businesses and other and other folks. Not the court, as we learned in the earlier meetings today, the coordinating or RCO is sort of the bare minimum of who you should be reaching out to. There are others too, other stakeholders.
And we sent all the letters that were requested to the people that live across the street. Ron Sandmeyer has been met many, many times. Many people who've spoke today, Jack O'Hara, he won't deny it. We met with him face to face with Mark Giuffre. We sat in his office and we talked all about the project pre-COVID. We met with the board of Somerton. We had a nice dinner, right, pre-COVID. We actually did a meeting with the council people in Lower Moreland, and then they said, let's do a virtual. The same presentation that was given today, they got because they wanted to do it, because they wanted the information. Whereas Somerton wanted to shut us down, and they kept saying, wait till there's a vaccine. So I think that has to be in the record.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I respond to this?
No, we're not doing back and forth. We're going to lose our quorum, and we're going to also lose our staff who are. So let's go to comments. Let's make sure that it's accurately, the comments accurately reflect what was said, and then we will have, and then we will be able to take our votes. You are a member of the table, and you may speak as you like as part of the discussion, but I'd ask you please not to get into a back and forth with council.
All right, thank you. I want to point out certainly that I disagree with what was said there by Mr. Primavera. I want to state that for the record that if the CDR panel and anyone who wants to review the records cares to look at it, I have also published the correspondence that I've had with them, and I would stand on that as an accurate description and record of what has transpired between us. We did offer to host a meeting. We have not said that we cannot host a virtual meeting. In fact, what we've been trying to do is set up a meaningful substitute for an in-person meeting. So that's.
I do know that there's clearly some disagreement here, and I think making sure that the RCO comments, maybe we add something that you disagree with the characterization, would be a good place to start, because I would like to get to the comments and our votes.
That will be fine. Yes, that adding that to the comments would be great from my standpoint.
Great, thank you. So if we could add that to the RCO comments, that the characterization, developer's characterization of meeting is not agreed to by the RCO. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I think we could probably slide down. And I think if we can accept staff comments as well. Okay, so we'll have a voice vote for whether or not this accurately reflects our comments. And then we'll have a vote to either continue or conclude the CDR process for this project.
Motion to accept the comments.
Do I have a second? Aye. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Anybody? Anybody opposed? Okay, the comments stand as written then, and then I need a motion and a second to either continue or conclude the CDR process for this project.
Motion to continue.
I have a motion to continue.
Second.
I have at least one second and possibly two, and we'll have a roll call vote.
Thanks, Nancy. RCO Representative Chris?
Aye, yes.
Committee Member Nancy?
Yes, continue.
Committee Member Michael?
Yes, continue.
Committee Member Dan?
Yes, continue.
Committee Member Ashley?
Yes, continue.
That seems unanimous. So the CDR process for this is not concluded. It will be continued to a future meeting. We strongly urge all sides to get together and to have meaningful, open, honest discussions about this before you come back, because for obvious reasons. And thank you all for sticking with us. If I can get a motion and a second to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I think I have a motion second, and I am foreseeing a unanimous vote, but
Yes.
all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much to everyone, and thank you also to the 70 participants who are still on the phone, but also to all those who came for other projects who dropped off hours ago, because really, you know, even in the absence of face-to-face meetings, you know, the community engagement is such a critical part of this. So thank you all. Have a good night. Get some dinner.
Yeah.
See you later.
Bye.
Take care.